October the 29th from 2014. Following the rules. Poor administration in Rugby and Rugby League is hurting the sport, with tweets becoming the knife that cuts. The issue is not so much the tweets as the issues behind them, with both codes being hyper-vigilant. ARL is sensitive to the fact that they've sold players down the river in drugs and sports scandal announced by Jason Clare. An exhaustive inquiry found none of the problems Clare had declared, and so players were encouraged to accept lesser charges so Clare could save face. Among the ARU, the micromanaging of players has gone to extremes. Beale could not have done worse were he to sing to his coach and his manageress sitting in a tree, K.I.S.S.I.N.G. Ewen McKenzie had been a magnificent coach who almost managed to get the team competitive with the All Blacks, but he was undermined by backdoor politics. ALP booted from Parliament after failing to follow rules. Jason Clare was just one of the herd failing to represent his electorate. It must be hard on an ALP member. Do they oppose good policy or get booted for being incapable of following simple rules? What had happened was a headline in the Herald Sun referring to a Bowser bandit stealing fuel money was made into a prop as Mr. Shorten accused Mr. Abbott of being that bandit. Mr. Abbott has imposed a fuel levy after Mr. Shorten had opposed all cuts from the last budget, including cuts ALP put in place. Captain's Pick Nova may have used taxpayer dollars to carry on an affair, according to leaked emails by a Northern Territory newspaper. Details of the affair between the mother of three and an elite athlete are not important. Neither is the sad abuse of another Aboriginal athlete, but the apparent suggestion that public funds was used to carry on the affair is corruption that cannot be ignored. It was before she was made a senator, so it is unclear if she had had access to a slush fund. The issue is not the same as that of the poet who was suspended from his university post following leaked private emails that were irrelevant to public discourse. Such a breach of privacy is outrageous, and one hopes whomever did it will serve jail time, but exposing corruption is called investigative journalism. Afghan refugee who grew up in Australia before the recruiting some 30 jihadis and flying to fight with ISIS has been killed by a female warrior, it is rumoured. If true, then his extremist faith says he will be denied virgins in the afterlife. But he might be allowed to spend eternity with his 30 buddies. Them's is the rules. ABC is distraught and unbelieving. He was an example of the ABC narrative that says poor Muslims are pushed into terrorism from circumstance. In fact, he was a drug-using, porn-exploiting, brothel strongman who got bored with ordinary crime and turned to terrorism. First-hand sources suggest that the Stolen Generations is a myth. The sources are Adelaide letters from mid to the late 19th century and early 20th century and show no example of a stolen generation. The letters exist online. Victorian ALP supports union at public expense. CFMEU is struggling with senior-level corruption and has failed to behave as a union for its members. So to prevent drift away from the union, the ALP have pledged that they are elected, then CFMEU employees can have half their car registration paid for. But there are hurdles for non-unionists wanting the same. So if a Victorian wants a good, strong union, they should vote for the Libs. If instead they want a sound, trustworthy government, they should still vote Libs. However, if they want corruption in unions and empty promises, the ALP is their partner. New consensus is that there is no global warming crisis. Only 36% of geoscientists and engineers believe the humans are creating a global warming crisis, according to a survey reported in the peer-reviewed organization Studies. By contrast, a strong majority of the 1,077 respondents believe that nature is the primary cause of the recent global warming and or for the future global warming will not be a very serious problem. Researcher proves claim that Islamofascists are Islamic, despite evidence to the contrary. Dr. Dennis McCune is a former lecturer in Arabic and Islamic Studies and distinguished senior fellow at the Gatestone Institute. The researcher points to terrorism in scripture which underpins it, but ignores discrepancies. For example, a Muslim person should not be a criminal, should not drink, sleep, go to drugs, and should not kill other Muslims, should not lie about their God or attribute faults to their God. There's clear evidence that terrorists are not submitting themselves to their God at all, ever. ABC is biased and immature. The Australian editorializes, "We accept the need for light and shade," and this newspaper has cried out often enough for the ABC to meet its charter obligation for plurality. Yet for the past 3 federal elections, the ABC has not hosted the leaders' debates. It is prime current affairs program run only 4 nights a week, with perfunctory attention to state issues on Fridays. But on the rare occasion the ABC breaks a significant story, it is likely to be delivered to it by activists, such as the 2011 Four Corners expose of animal cruelty in Indonesia that was based on Animals Australia footage, or a case of jaundiced overreach such as the claims in January the Navy had tortured asylum seekers, an allegation the ABC now regrets. Auntie needs to turn away from lowbrow populism and the digital-driven pursuit of fashion in favor of a high-minded approach of the important discussion shaping the country. Perhaps the greatest of our cultural institutions, it has skills and resources to fulfill expectations. But mostly, instead of challenging diverse, fact-based and intelligent reporting and discussion, the ABC joins the Fairfax tabloids and left-wing websites in a mindless pursuit of jejune clickbait. This is the world where Sarah Hanson-Young is the go-to voice on refugees, Tim Flannery is the oracle on climate, Wayne Swan is the world's greatest treasurer, middle-class Western jihadists are victims of injustice, and Pauline Hanson speaks for suburbia. This is not reality, and it is not a sensible place for ABC to inhabit. The ABC Charter demands innovative and comprehensive broadcasting services of a high standard to contribute to a sense of national identity and inform and entertain and reflect the cultural diversity of the Australian community. Mark Scott seems to confuse the community with the Twitter sphere, as he allows, even encourages, his public behemoth to chase its social media tail. Blacks oppose Democrats. The relationship has been close since the Democrats betrayed black people in the 1920s and blamed Hoover. But following the rule, unquestioningly, is a product of leftism. ALP childish infighting is not producing leadership with the public desire from opposition. Shorten declares they have reformed, but he embraces policy that the public rejected, unless it means opposing the government, where he is willing to oppose ALP policy that was declared before the last election. And then Shorten's underlings are challenging Shorten's authority. Shorten claims he supports the war against ISIS, but his own party won't pass enabling legislation. Image of Napoleon's Guard from late 1850s is on Bolt's site today and will be shown below. It is fascinating and a privilege to see. MLB World Series update. Royals smash Giants early in Game 6, making Kansas City the favorite going into Game 7. Royals scatter the defense for 7 runs in the second innings, claiming the starting pitcher for Giants after 1.1 innings. San Francisco can still win it, but they need to go against all conventional wisdom to do it. And when has San Francisco ever done that?